It's D-U-E-U tell. I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.
Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. And wow, we've reached Conference Championship weekend, one game away from the Super Bowl, which takes place in Tampa, Florida at Raymond James Stadium. But before we get into our previews and predictions for the game, let's start by taking a look at the Pro Football Hall of Fame finalists, which just came out, because we know they will announce who gets inducted into the Hall of Fame for the 2021 class before the Super Bowl. But let's take a look at the finalists and give you my take on who I would vote in if I had a pick. First, let's take a look at the finalists this year for the 2021 Hall of Fame class. You can see that this list is littered with football greatness spanning many different generations of football. You can also see how tough of a decision it is for a Hall of Fame voter to make. The question will always be, well, if you put so-and-so in the Hall of Fame, which player are you taking off? And that's always a losing scenario, as everyone listed here on this list is very worthy of being inducted into the Hall. But I'll make my case for a couple of players listed, starting with the no-brainers like Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, and Calvin Johnson. All three players were dominant in their era and are arguably some of the best to ever do it at their respective positions. Manning was able to win Super Bowls in two different spots, Indianapolis as well as Denver, along with being named league MVP a whopping 5 times. Charles Woodson won a Super Bowl with Green Bay after starring for the Oakland Raiders the previous 8 seasons before making a return trip to the Bay Area in 2012, where he made the Pro Bowl in his final season back in 2015. Now, Woodson was selected All-Pro 4 times and was a Defensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year in 2009. Calvin Johnson dominated opponents his entire 9-year career with the Detroit Lions, a 6-time Pro Bowler and 3-time All-Pro. Johnson was the #1 option in the Motor City, and opponents knew that and still couldn't stop him. He finished with over 11,000 yards receiving and 83 touchdowns in his career. Now let's look at some other guys that I would vote in this year, starting in Green Bay with Leroy Butler. He was a standard at that position all throughout the 90s. Butler was an excellent combo safety who made plays on both ends of defense. From 93 to 98, Butler was named All-Pro 4 times and was also named to the All-90s Decade Team as well. So was Tony Boselli, the outstanding left tackle coming out of USC who starred with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He only played 7 seasons, 5 of them were in the 90s, and he still made the All-Decade Team. That's how dominant the 5-time Pro Bowler and 3-time All-Pro was at his position. If it were not for injuries, Boselli would have sure to been named to the All-2000s Decade Team as well. And how about the late great linebacker Sam Mills, who was a key cog on those dominant Saint defenses of the late 80s and early 90s. Now, Mills only stood 5'9", but was a rock on the inside, making 5 Pro Bowls. He was named first-team All-Pro late in his career as a 37-year-old starter in Carolina, helping that franchise reach the NFC Championship game in only their 2nd year of existence. Remember, this is the Pro Football Hall of Fame, so not only did Mills star in the NFL, he was outstanding in the USFL as well. Now, I don't envy the job of those Hall of Fame voters, like I said earlier, so we want to wish everyone listed here the best of luck as they hope to accomplish the ultimate goal for the football player that straps it up and gets out there on the field. So good luck to everyone that's a finalist this season. You've definitely earned it. It's never too early to take a look at the 2021 NFL Draft, and right now, we are in the midst of the College All-Star Game circuit. It's College All-Star Game season as we have the College Gridiron Showcase and the Tropical Bowl taking place currently this week. So let's take a look at some of the guys you want to keep an eye on in these All-Star events, and we'll start with the Tropical Bowl. What I like about these All-Star games the most is that you get to see many guys get out there from across college football and compete. Case in point, a guy in defensive back RJ Shelley from the University of Manitoba out in Canada, a really good program up there, and I'm excited to see how he matches up versus the guys in the States and where his best position lies at the next level? Is it at a corner position or is it as a combo safety? Now we know what Kenneth Griffin's position will be coming out of Augustana, and that's cornerback. He's got a real knack for the football and could make a case for himself being a stellar slot corner this week at practice. Kevin Thompson, who transferred to Washington but decided to opt out this season, was an outstanding quarterback at Sacramento State, whose game reminds me a lot of Drew Lock when he was coming out of Missouri. This is a big week for him in front of NFL scouts, as is for wide receiver Keon Dixon out of Eastern Kentucky. He showed up big time in every game this year for the Colonels and should be one of the studs out there this week in Orlando. Josh Johnson is one of my favorite backs in the draft class coming out of UL Monroe. He's got great balance and burst and will remind some folks of Michael Carter of UNC as well. Another back that is highly decorated coming from a small college program is Jaquan Hardy out of Tiffin. He's got some wiggle with him despite him being a thicker back and shows top end burst to be a chunk play gainer at the next level. He has a really good chance to raise some eyebrows this week in Fort Worth. Edge rusher D'Angelo McMillan, you can tell, was well coached in college at Shaw University by head coach Adrian Jones, one of the best coaches in Division II. This guy has the length, the athleticism, and does a great job of being disruptive on both ends of defense. And keep an eye out for Brady Davis of Illinois State. He's got Josh Allen-like arm talent, and we'll have a chance to showcase that this week. He's one of those toolsy prospects that you like to see get out there and compete in an all-star game setting.
I love football. I cannot get enough of football. I watch it on every level.
The emotional release. Whether it's an exciting play that gets you all jacked up and juiced, or whether it's the fact that you're able to pour everything you have. Whatever frustration you had that week, you can put into that first kickoff coverage, that first block that you have, whatever it might be.
And I couldn't think of anything better to do to fill that void that you have as a football player than to get into coaching.
You get a chance to release a lot of emotion that you otherwise have no place to release. There's nothing else like that.
Again, the relationships you build and the people you're around and watching the guys compete, not just on the football field, but in life after they get done playing. It's just an amazing game.
Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Ninth and Lux. Visit the website ninethandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with featured artist IW in his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app. Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense.
Well, the game of football has taught me so many things, man. Now, think about the huddle we have right now, right? I tell people this all the time. There's a reason why they call it a huddle. People have been huddling all their lives, trying to find ways to enhance each other's lives. The great teams do that all the time. The great teams do that. The better the huddle, the better the team. And so it's simple, man, how if you huddle for all the right reasons, we wouldn't have Ferguson. We wouldn't have some of the challenges that we have in our society. But as we all know, there's always a moment when somebody doesn't belong in the huddle. And yet we have to continue to move on. We got to continue to play. So the game of life, man, is always starting with the huddle. And for me, I'm lucky enough to know that, by the graces of God, man, it's been a nice huddle. It's been a nice huddle. And if I just keep making sure that he's in front of me, I'm gonna be all right.
Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, here to take a 10,000-foot level look at the Giants offense as they head into the offseason of what was an entertaining year nonetheless, and one that saw its share of good moments, especially toward the back end of the season. Starting with the quarterback position, this was supposed to be a season where we would learn a lot about Daniel Jones and if he could be their guy for the future. Up until about week 9, it looked like the Giants were steamrolling toward Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields as Jones struggled mightily in the early half of the season. Now, over the second half, when the offense started to use his ability to run as an asset, he started to stabilize his play and started to have some success. Now, not to overstate that success, as he ended up only throwing 11 touchdown passes in a season where he started 14 games. And he still had a very below average yards per attempt number at 6.6. However, he did finish with 423 yards rushing, and the offense did look better when he was in the lineup. But we still ended the season not having an answer to the big question: is Daniel Jones a franchise guy or not? And while Joe Judge says he is, we'll see if that changes come late April. At the running back position, we know the Giants season was derailed at the moment. Saquon Barkley went down against the Chicago Bears with an ACL injury, so that changed the dynamic of the backfield and the offense as a whole. One could imagine an offense that utilizes Daniel Jones' ability to run along with Saquon Barkley. Maybe we'll see that next season, but the biggest revelation from this year from the running back position was how much improved Wayne Gallman was at that number 2 spot, because he stepped up big time with some big time games throughout the course of the season. So now you go into 2021, or you go into an all season with your running back field set with both Wayne Gallman as your clear-cut RB2 and a healthy Saquon Barkley as your clear-cut superstar RB1. Looking at the receiver position, and no one went over 1,000 yards, but it doesn't mean they didn't have any production or some signs of growth from within this group. Now, Darius Slayton took a big step forward, I believe, this year. Despite being hamstrung by the quarterback position, he was able to lead the team in receiving yards and also touchdowns, which is a good thing for the second-year player out of Auburn. But you saw a resurgence of Sterling Shepard. He was a valuable option on third down. So you saw Evan Ingram make the Pro Bowl at tight end. Yes, he still has some inconsistencies. He's going to have to really flatline his game moving forward, but you saw some growth and some confidence within this game. Now, Golden Tate may be the odd man out because he finished third in terms of receiving yards. But again, the position, you have to really look at it from a different perspective, seeing that the passing game wasn't there with quarterback consistency, first year in the offense in the pandemic year. But let it be known, the Giants do need a stud at that position. They were able to get some bright spots from guys that they were able to develop thanks in part to wide receiver coach Tyke Tolbert and a great job he does. We saw the emergence of an Austin Mack. Dante Pettis had some bright spots after coming over from San Francisco. His most productive season, albeit a short one, since his rookie year out there by the Bay. So there's some seeds of growth that has been planted there in New York, but they definitely need a bona fide number 1 to help Daniel Jones reach his potential. Where we saw the biggest growth offensively for the Giants this year was along the offensive line. They did a great job all season long, in my opinion, opening up holes in the run game, protecting both Daniel Jones and Colt McCoy. We saw the growth of 2 rookie tackles in Andrew Thomas, a first-round pick who struggled early but found his footing and became a solid contributor later in the season. We also saw Matt Parrott have a great job in his debut. We saw Cameron Fleming provide good depth and also starting some games. And we saw the development of an interior lineman with Shane Lemieux, another rookie. So all the rookies I thought did a great job. And you also look at Nick Gates starting his first season at center. He was excellent in the middle, signed a new contract extension. That shows you the commitment they've made to Nick Gates. Now, there are going to be some questions at the guard spot. Will Hernandez be back? And how much they're going to continue to invest more in Kevin Zeitler. I thought Zeitler is still a very key cog to this offensive line. Hernandez may be up in the air. They're going to perhaps get Nate Solder back, who opted out of the season due to COVID-19. So the Giants are more stable up front than people give them credit for, and I think that's a testament to what they have been able to build through the draft and through free agency. So I think the offensive line is a significant strength heading into the offseason. Again, the Giants are not that far off offensively. Find a bona fide number 1. Have to answer the question about Daniel Jones, and their running back position will be better because they're going to get back a healthy Saquon Barkley in 2021. Welcome back to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Okay, now let's start to preview the conference championships, and we'll start in the AFC, where we have a great matchup between the Buffalo Bills and Kansas City Chiefs. Let's start with some keys to victory for both teams in this ball game, but we'll start with Buffalo. Number one is about playing Bills football. I know last week everyone talked about them not being able to run the football, but hey, they got the win. They were able to move the football at times against Baltimore by playing their game. They have to carry that over into this game against the Chiefs. Just play your game. Don't try to do anything that you're not used to doing or excelling at. And also don't get beat deep. I know that's easier said than done with Pat Mahomes at quarterback, but you can't allow yourself to give up big plays via the air. We saw the Browns routinely do that last weekend. And you just have to find plays and make them when you have an opportunity to turn the ball over, to get off the field, to make a key stop on third downs. You have to make that play, and that's how you can beat the Kansas City Chiefs. One of the biggest X factors offensively for Buffalo, I believe, will be that offensive line. Once again, we saw them do an excellent job, in my opinion, against Baltimore. That's another area where they had to have success, and they were able to do that, keeping that pass rush from Baltimore at bay. They have to do that same type of thing against the Chiefs. And defensively, it's about those edge rushers and how well they're able to play contain, because they're facing a quarterback that's very similar as far as being able to escape like Lamar Jackson or their own quarterback, Josh Allen. They have to find ways to play consistent. So those edge rushers playing things tight to the vest and keeping Mahomes in the pocket will be key. Now let's move over to the Kansas City Chiefs in this game and their keys to victory. First, it's about push versus pressure. Same rules apply when you're facing a quarterback like Josh Allen. Don't rush past him, rush to him, and collapse the pocket around him. And you have to stay aggressive throughout. That's something that they've done consistently throughout the season. We saw them do it last week against Cleveland. Stay aggressive on that 4th and inches. They threw the football. That's how you win ball games. And I would bracket Stephon Diggs no matter the alignment, whether he's on the outside, field side, boundary side, in the slot. Bracket him, try to take him away, and force Josh Allen to go to other targets. X factor in this game offensively will have to be Pat Mahomes and how well he can perform coming off of that concussion. How well can he hit the ground running will determine how well this offense does as a whole. And defensively, I look at the fact that these guys do a great job of playing well with one another. One of the key cogs is Tyrann Mathieu and how much of an impact he has been to the secondary, especially in the playoffs. So he will be my biggest defensive X factor, because he's going to be flying around the field aligned in different spots. I like the Chiefs in this ball game. I think we'll see another well-balanced attack coming from Kansas City. I like how they're able to run the football efficiently enough to where you have to respect it, and they're able to do what they want to do in the passing game. So I look for the Chiefs to move on to the Super Bowl this upcoming weekend. Now let's move over to the NFC, where we have another rematch as Kansas City and Buffalo played earlier in the season. This one features two future Hall of Famers as well. You're talking about Tom Brady of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Green Bay to take on Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Let's start with some keys to victory for Tampa Bay in this ball game. Number one, it's about press and disrupt on the outside. I think that's where they can throw things off offensively for Green Bay. Force Aaron Rodgers to hold the football a little bit longer than he wants to, or force him to check it down to an outlet receiver. You saw what the Bucs were able to do last week against New Orleans. They pressed and disrupted the timing for Drew Brees, made things tough for him, and they were able to turn the ball over as a result. And also, you want to make this game about the game plan, and don't try to make this a Brady versus Rodgers game. I think if they go about their business how they did versus New Orleans, you saw Ronald Jones have some success before he went out with that quad injury. You saw Leonard Fournette have some success all throughout the playoffs. If they're able to do that, I think they can have the balanced offense that they lacked, that they wanted to show earlier in the season, that they started to get on late in the season. But right now, it's about making sure you just utilize those offensive weapons that you have at your disposal, and don't try to make this a one-for-one, tit-for-tat passing match. Go out there, run the football, operate off play action, take your timely shots deep down the field, and you could have the success. And I also think in the passing game, they could attack the middle of the field. In my opinion, that's where the Green Bay Packers have a little bit of vulnerability with those inside backers in coverage. You talk about a guy like Rob Gronkowski going over the middle of the field. You talk about some of your receivers like an Antonio Brown working over the middle of the field. They have an opportunity to generate some big plays in the passing game in that capacity. Now, the biggest offensive X factor in this game, I alluded to it earlier, it will be the run game. We talk about Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette hitting their stride toward the back end of the season, playing a big role in the playoffs and how well the Bucs have played offensively. Those two going up to Green Bay, leaning on that ground game, could lead them to victory. On the defensive side of football, we saw the impact Devin White made on this defense last week against New Orleans. Outstanding instincts, great sideline to sideline speed, making plays on both ends of defense. And if that can be the case again against this opponent, this threatening passing game of Green Bay, it goes a long way in helping the Bucs move on to the Super Bowl. Now let's move over to the Green Bay Packers in this ball game and what they have to do to come away victorious. First, they're going to have to beat the blitz. I'm pretty sure you look at what happened in that first matchup against Tampa Bay. They got blitzed like crazy, and we know Todd Bowles will do the same thing again, just trying to force Aaron Rodgers into a quick, short decision, so therefore they can rally up, make a tackle. So the Packers have to be ready to beat the blitz, and it's going to have to be misdirection mayhem on offense. That's one way you can take advantage of an over-aggressive defensive front seven. These guys want to get after it. They want to seek and destroy, identify, and fly, but you can have those guys go in the wrong direction with a little bit of counteraction, a little bit of misdirection, maybe some traps, different things on offense in the passing game and in the run game that can happen to throw off that pressure that they want to apply and just get downhill. And you want to force Tom Brady to go down the sidelines. I think the Green Bay Packers have excellent matchup corners. They can essentially play the same game that the Bucs defense will play against them, and therefore they can also get after Brady and force him to get rid of that football earlier than he wants to and force him to really work in one area of the field. And I think they have the corners and DBs to do so. The biggest offensive X factor in this game for Green Bay will be Aaron Rodgers and what he has to counter what happened in that first matchup where they got bounced 38-10. If he has a changeup for their changeup, it's going to go a long way in helping the Packers win this game because their offense definitely has the pieces to do so. And defensively, I look at Jair Alexander, a guy that has the ability to turn the ball over, and he can be locked up on Mike Evans. He can be matched up on Antonio Brown or Chris Godwin. He's their best cover corner, and if he can take away at least one of those options, it goes a long way in Green Bay moving on to the Super Bowl. And that's what I think will happen in this ball game. I like the Packers to win. I think when you look at what they're able to do from a defensive standpoint, that's a unit that has gotten better all throughout the season. And offensively, with the balance that they are able to operate with in the run game as well as in the passing game, I think they'll have enough to knock off Tampa Bay. So that's it for this edition of Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating.
It's D-U-E, you tell I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.